finally, last section of this lesson, finding the points of intersection of two graphs without using a calculator. There are two methods to do this. We only have one example, and I'm going to show you both methods. And then from there, you can pick whichever method makes the most sense to you and go with it. So, method 1. Solve one equation for one variable and then substitute into the other equation. So I'm going to take this first equation and I'm going to solve for either x or y. Doesn't really matter. I think I'm going to solve for x. So now I have x equals y plus 1. Now, if that's what x equals, I'm going to plug that in for x into the second equation. So substituting it in. So now I have y plus 1 squared minus y equals 3. Let's start by factoring this out. So I've got y squared plus 2y plus 1, and then minus y equals 3. Combine like terms and let's bring everything to one side. So I've got y squared, 2y minus y is plus y, 1 minus 3 is minus 2, equals 0. And then you can factor this, you can use quadratic formula if you want, whichever one you want, but it should factor out y plus 2 and y minus 1. And then from there, separate each of these to equal 0 and solve both individually. So I got y equals negative 2 and y equals 1. Now, I want to find the points of intersection, which means I need a coordinate point. So what I'm going to do is plug that answer back in to either equation. And I'm going to pick the first equation because it's a lot simpler. I don't have any quadratics or squares in there as such. So I'm going to take x minus y equals 1, that equation, and I'm going to start by plugging in my first answer, which was negative 2. So x plus 2 equals 1. Solve for x, so I get x equals negative 1. So for that point, the x value was negative 1, the y value was negative 2. And that's our first one. Take that equation again, plug in our second y value, which is 1. Solve for x. So x equals 2. So now the x value is 2 and the y value was 1. So those are the points of intersection for those two equations. Now, if you look at that and you're like, I don't like that method. Let's try the second method, see if that one works for you better. This one, solve both equations for the same variable and set them equal to each other. So I have both equations. I'm going to solve both for the same variable. So I can solve them both for x's or solve them both for y's. Doesn't really matter. I look at this second one right here and I can see that if I solve this for x, I'm going to get roots, which is gross. So I'm going to choose, there we go, to solve specifically for y's. So minus x, so I get negative y equals negative x plus 1. And then multiply everything by negative 1. So y equals x minus 1 for the first equation. And minus x squared. So I got negative y equals negative x squared plus 3 times everything by negative 1. So y equals x squared minus 3. So now they're both set equal to y. So I can now set them equal to each other. So I've got x minus 1 equals x squared minus 3. Let's take everything to the same side. So minus x's, add 1s. So I got x squared minus x minus 2 equals 0. From here, you can factor again, quadratic formula, whichever one you like. It should factor into x minus 2, x plus 1. Set them both equal to 0. Solve. So I get x equals 2 and x equals negative 1. Once again, I need the coordinate points, not just the x values. So I'm going to take those x values, plug them back into either equation. I'm going to choose that simpler first one. So I got, also one note, I can choose to plug it into this equation, or this equation, or this equation, or this equation. They all work. I'm going to specifically choose that one, because then when I plug the x's in, I don't even need to solve anything. Y is just right there. So y equals x minus 1. Plug in my first x value, 2 minus 1. So y equals 1. So that point, x was 2, y was 1. Same equation, x minus 1, but plug in my second x value. There's a negative 1. 2 negatives make a positive. Oh, I totally messed that up, guys. Let me fix that. Plug in my x value, negative 1 minus 1. Oh, I need it now. Okay, negative 1 minus 1. There we go. So that equals negative 2. So our x value is negative 1, y was negative 2. And you'll notice for either method, we've got the same coordinate points. And that's how you solve for points of intersection when you can't use a calculator. Now that we're done with this lesson 0.3, you can go ahead, go back to Canvas and get started on your 0.3 lesson and self-assessment.